Wabash, the gentleman's rule. You gotta believe in that stuff. Wabash always fight.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been able to join you. That's because the Little Giants had a bye this past weekend after going to Gambier, Ohio, and Coach really picking up an impressive 47-14 victory. We're going to jump right into the highlights immediately because we've got a lot of rushing touchdowns to look at.
Sure do.
6 rushing touchdowns. Your team ran for 468 yards in the game, held Kenyon to 43 rushing yards. And first of all, what an outstanding job by your starters on the offensive line and your backups who got in late in the game and got a chance to get a touchdown for freshman Mason Durrett.
I think it was a tremendous performance by the entire football team, whether you traveled to the game or not. On Friday, we had the funeral service for Evan Hansen. It was beautiful, stunning. I think it set us in a pretty good mood. Half the team came back to Crawfordsville. The travel squad went on to Ohio and did a great job in pretty tough circumstances.
It was a great job, and it got started from the outset. We saw in the first highlight, you started on defense, of course. It's been documented. Came out with 10 men on the field to honor Evan. And then 3 plays into the game, you get an interception on a great tip drill from Pat Kelly to Artie Akiwa, who recorded the interception. And your defensive secondary, you were facing a big task with Thomas Merkel, who's an outstanding quarterback for Kenyon. And that defensive secondary just really made it difficult for Kenyon all afternoon long.
I think they did. Also, when you watch one of those games, you feel like you're getting nickeled and dimed and you're giving up, maybe a first down here or a 5-yard pass here. But overall, defense did an outstanding game against a really good quarterback.
Now, Merkel threw 63 times. He completed 39 passes, but for only 264 yards and 1 TD. His longest pass of the day was 37 yards. And you had several pass breakups on the day. As we mentioned, Patrick Kelly had a breakup on the interception. Artie Akiwa got a breakup later in the game. 3 pass breakups for Kyle Stroh once he came into the ball game. And you had a couple for Brandon Yagi as well. So your defense really got after it overall. And you had 6 tackles for loss, so the front line kept their running game from even being any type of a factor. When you were able to get the big lead, that just let you really focus on their passing attack.
It did. We're fortunate we could rush 3 defensive line most of the game. It was Don Shook, Blair Brody, Lucas Pacina. We had some other guys jumping in and out of there too, but they really did a nice job of pressuring the quarterback with 3 guys, and it allowed us to drop 8 into coverage.
When you got that turnover early, you were able to take advantage on offense and immediately get a quick strike from Jake Reed to Rashawn Jones in the end zone for the first touchdown. And then it became the running show. It started, you got an Austin Hoover 4-yard touchdown run, one of his 4 touchdowns on the afternoon. And then you had what's one of the biggest plays that I've seen in my history, 19 years of being here at Wabash College. Kenyon got an excellent punt, pinned you deep in near your own end zone at the 2-yard line, and you needed exactly 1 play to find pay dirt. Isaac Avant with a tremendous run outside going off right tackle. And once again, we saw it in the first game of the season, and we saw it again that Saturday. Oliver Page with just a tremendous block downfield to spring Isaac, and Isaac did a good job getting away from the defenders early to find pay dirt.
We laugh about it on the team. Isaac Avant is so exciting. He made himself faint after the run, so he was done for the rest of the day. Austin Hoover certainly stepped up, did a great job. Matt Pinola jumped in. We had freshmen playing. It was a good afternoon for the rushing game.
You rushed for 468 yards on 48 carries. Austin Hoover, who made the D3 football team of the week as a running back, 19 carries for 255 yards and 4 TDs. Isaac Avant, 9 carries for 160 yards and the 1 touchdown on the 98-yard run, which is technically the second longest run in Wabash College history, because if you go back to the early 1900s, all the way up to 1929, fields weren't necessarily 100 yards long, so Wabash actually has a 105-yard touchdown run on its books, but that is the longest modern touchdown run in Wabash history. Freshman Mason Durrett with 12 carries late in the game for 42 yards on a touchdown run, and a guy that we don't want to go unmentioned, in fact we put it on the highlight reel, Tanner Skeel came in to back up Jake Reed, and Tanner had a big third down run, an 18-yard carry that extended the drive, and that led to Mason's touchdown. So he really did a good job in the backup role late in the game for Wabash.
Tanner Skeel is a great Wabash man. He has handled being the backup phenomenally well, and it doesn't seem like a big deal when you're up 48-6 or whatever the score is. But that first down, that does keep defensive guys off the field, and those are important first downs for us.
Well, and it also, as we mentioned earlier, it gave you a chance. Tanner and Mason were in with a lot of the second unit, so a lot of guys got some good playing time, and it was good to see them be able to produce both offensively and defensively. You got good play out of the backup defenders. They got some good live game experience against an opponent instead of practice time.
Sure.
And the offense really did a nice job of moving the football on a couple of drives to put the final points on the board.
Yeah, for being such a tough week, I was very pleased, and certainly at the end of the game it was a relief, and we felt like it melted into the bye nicely, and now we're ready to get the season going again.
Well, we've talked about that during the summer when we talk about scheduling and so forth. How important is it to try and get that bye after you've played 2 or 3 or 4 games into the season?
Really important, and you got to juggle the schedule, and it has to fit. But we needed a bye. I think at the Division III level, you really need the bye getting over camp still too. After no football all summer by NCAA rules, and then you jump into 3 weeks of camp, and then you play a game, you play a game, you play a game. A bye is a helpful thing.
Well, the bye week has come and gone. Now you get set to return to Howlett Little Giant Stadium. It's homecoming week. A lot of activities going on campus, some activities leading into Saturday's football game. But at 2 o'clock, you finally get to be back on the field, and you'll take on an improved College of Wooster Fighting Scots football team that has a good young quarterback, and we know they have an outstanding receiver. Nick Strasbaugh last year really was a problem for not only Wabash, but just about everybody he faced. He's a fast receiver, has good hands, and runs good routes. And he picked 2 big touchdown passes last year against Wabash. Little Giants were able to come back and get the victory in last season's game over at Wooster. What do you see from them thus far through their first 4 games this season?
Wooster, they're talented on offense. I think the back is tough to tackle. He was in and out of the game last week against DePaul, and Wooster had an impressive win against our neighbors to the south there. And then also the Strasbaugh guy is one of the top receivers in the league, and everybody's got an answer to try to stop him. I just haven't seen anybody really, other than the rain game they played. He is one of the better receivers in the league. He's really physical, too. He's a thick kid, and we're going to have our hands full covering him.
Strasbaugh through 4 games, 28 receptions, 473 yards, and 3 touchdowns, including a 73-yard reception. So he is that type of big play back who, if he gets behind your defensive backs, he can make it hurt in a hurry.
Yep, it's over.
And they've got a young quarterback who didn't start the first 3 games. They had Caden Croft was the starter in games 1 through 3. But last week they turned to Mateo Renteria. He's now 49 of 73 on the season for 559 yards, but he threw for 388 yards last week. What have you seen from him just through really his first start last week and one other appearance earlier in the year?
I was really impressed in the game he played last week. He's fearless. He keeps the play alive, accurate with throws, did a nice job in leading his team to an upset victory.
24-21 victory for Wooster last weekend, and that was at home against our friends to the south, DePaul University. Defensively, they've always been, a very solid team, particularly up front. They always seem to have a good defensive lineman, a good linebacker, some good cornerbacks as well. What have you seen from them on film that concerns you with your offensive attack?
Their defensive front, I think, is excellent. I think it's 310 and 290 inside. So those are two big guys. They are smaller but really fast on the edge. And then older secondary that's been around, talented players. It's one of the better defenses we're going to see this year.
You get ready for Saturday's game, and of course there's a lot of activity going on this week. We're taping this on Wednesday. Tomorrow there'll be chapel sing, which is always a fun event. You're going to have some freshman football players involved in that. We've already seen some interesting haircuts out on the football field for practice. You'll have floats that don't float being built on the fraternity and living unit yards and lawns out in front of the buildings. There'll be all the other activities that the football team won't be involved with on Saturday. Does that become a distraction, or is it something that's just kind of fun with the week and it kind of gets everybody's energy kind of going? I kind of feel that's, Thursday is when you kind of start really gearing up for Saturday's football.
I think you do. I think the traditions at Wabash are so unique. The upperclassmen talk to the younger guys about it. They want them to take part in it. I want them to take part of it. It is vintage Wabash College. It's great that the weather finally turned. It feels like fall. And I'd say this also. It seems like we played a home football game a month ago with all we've been through. So it's going to be great just to be at home, have a great crowd. There are alums on campus today. As you said, today's Wednesday, and there are alums walking around. So homecoming at Wabash College is a big deal.
And in a change in our regular homecoming schedule, we'll have our Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Friday evening. You saw the information on the Wabash College website. There are some great individuals going into the hall, but one of the special moments on Friday night will also be one of the all-time great Wabash College football teams will be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and that's the class of 2002, or the 2002 Wabash College football team, along with one of the all-time great receivers and a player who was part of one of the legendary plays in Wabash College history, and that's Kirk Casper, who is a member of the class of 2002. Casper, of course, part of the catch. And you're going to be involved with the induction of the class of 2002 on Friday night, but I know you weren't here when that group played, but I know you've seen the video.
Oh, absolutely.
You've seen the records and the numbers that team put together. How special will it be to be a part of that and know that team's going to be here watching your football team on Saturday?
Certainly, it's one of the most impressive football teams we've had here at Wabash College. I was a part of the 2015 team that was excellent, ended up 12-1. I can't imagine 15 or 20 years from now coming back with that group of guys. I think as much as winning the award, just that team getting back together and really looking at what they did 15 years ago, incredibly impressive.
Of course, some outstanding individuals on that team, and just a great team bond. It really it was the first Wabash team to win a North Coast Athletic Conference team championship, first Wabash team to go into the playoffs in the new modern system that we have now. They just really kind of set the model for what each Wabash team has now attempted to accomplish, including, as you mentioned, that 2015 team, matching them in terms of the effort getting to the round of 8 in the playoffs. So they really kind of set the original bar for that other teams have continued to chase after.
It is a tough bar to follow, too, trust me.
So that will take place on Friday night. Then Saturday morning, the Alumni Chapel will take place over in the chapel. Honorary alums and the various awards presented by the college to the alumni. There'll be a luncheon that Advancement and the Alumni Office will have in the Noling Fieldhouse. And then at 2 o'clock, Wabash will take on the College of Wooster at Howlett Little Giant Stadium, Sewell Field. We'll have the action for you beginning a little bit before 2, probably about 1:35, 1:40 with this very show, the Don Morel Show, and then Jim Amadon and Steve Hoffman will have the call for you. Of course, we'd like to have you at Howlett Little Giant Stadium in person. You can go to wabashtickets.com and buy your tickets online. You can download them to your mobile device. You can print the ticket out yourself, and you can be at the game and see all the action in person. But if you can't, make sure you're tuned into Wabash Live. That's www.wabash.edu/live to follow all the action. Don't want to necessarily end on a negative, but I know one question, kind of a two-part question. The only disappointing thing coming out of the Kenyon game, and I'm sure it's been a focus heading into this Wooster game, special teams have still been a little bit of a struggle, and the penalties, again, were a little bit of an issue against Kenyon. What have you done to talk to the team about working on that discipline and trying to focus on the special teams?
I think over the bye week, I honestly think we kicked over 100 extra points, and we've figured that one out. That's just embarrassing. On the penalty thing, I don't necessarily agree with all the calls. And today, Artie Kiwa was released of all charges on his targeting call. So there was no targeting call. And you can look at the penalty numbers. I don't necessarily agree with all of them. My predecessor had the same issue. And if a guy's really making a mistake or doing something stupid, we correct it. But if it's a bad call, there's nothing you can do, and you just got to move on.
So with Artie, does that mean if there is no hit, you must acquit with that?
It means he gets to play Saturday. Thank goodness.
That's the important thing. So Artie will be in the starting lineup, and we hope you'll be with us as well. Again, 2 o'clock kickoff because of the homecoming activities going on prior to the game. Don't want to leave out the Glee Club concert on Saturday night. That will take place, and of course you'll be able to hear the Glee Club at the football game. They'll be performing the national anthem prior to the kickoff at 2 o'clock. We hope you'll join us. I know Coach Morel will be there. I'll be there as well. And Jim Abaddon and Steve Hoffman have the call. Coach, as always, thank you for your time, and best of luck this Saturday.
Thank you.
You've been watching the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. We'll talk to you next week.
Wabash, the gentleman's rule. You gotta believe in that stuff. The Wabash always fight.